Take one. Take
You
one.
guys have an extra monitor, you should pull it up.
Take one.
You guys have an extra monitor,
Take one. Yeah, I do.
just because I've got
Let's get some
like
views in the chat.
quadruple audio right now. I can't see. Okay, there we go.
Yeah. Okay. I'm actually. That's the first thing, dude. I literally typed in TW. That's the first thing. I literally came up was twitch.tv/empoweredfaithpod. So I for sure. So it was already created, right?
No. It should be Empowered Faith Pod underscore. Because it wouldn't let me do just pod. Which means I probably created an account and don't.
It is. It is because it's our same. It's the same logo that is my back screen right now. so
it wouldn't let me. I typed in that name, and I typed in like the password and all that, and it said that it didn't exist. And then I went to go create one, and it was like, can't do that. It already exists. So I wasn't gonna go back and forth on it. I just created a new one. It took like 5 seconds. So we can get into that other one.
So we do.
Or to get rid of one and do so, whatever. All right. Either way, we are good. I'm recording and I am live on there. So
sweet. Full screen that, Matt.
Full screen what? Sorry.
The recording.
Full screen the recording.
The record your monitor that's recording the screen. If you full screen it.
Oh yeah, there you go. Okay.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Very nice. All right, Mr. Kendall, dude. You looking at some lyrics? Look at some old lyrics there.
Nah, it's a letter from dude. We helped out and got pretty close to when we were doing homeless ministry when I met my wife, and it was just a letter that he wrote me from prison, and I found it in my notebook. That hold on, dude. Hold up. I'm sorry, guys. Hold on one second.
Like an old one.
Yeah, that's.
Oh, bro. Oh my gosh, dude. Thank you, Jesus. I lost this. I'll tell you a story on this at some point.
Yeah, no, I definitely.
Wow.
Me and Matt definitely want to get into some of that too. Hey, Kendall, so do me a favor, man. Tell the audience a little bit about you, man. Let me know where you're from, where you at right now.
Yeah, so I'm from Baytown, Texas. It's southeast of Houston. Technically, I was raised in LaPorte, Texas, till about 4th grade, and then my parents moved us out to Baytown. And yeah, great. I have the best parents in the world. They're seriously the best people I've ever met. I was very blessed in that regard. But yeah. Music was really, I chop a lot of my life story up to music's influence. I really do. That was always, I believe I was always called to it just based on some stories from whenever I was like little bitty. It was my great grandmother. Apparently whenever I had to have been like 1 or 2, I was over at their house, and apparently I just like stood on some little footstool and just started blabbering and just like very passionately speaking gibberish. And apparently my grandma was like, he's either going to be a singer or a preacher. And she kind of prophesied both, because I'm both now.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, from there, and then, I mean, I have pictures of me when I was like 3 or 4. My parents tried so hard to make me country, dude. They tried so hard.
Oh man.
There's a picture of me. I had to have been about 3 or 4, and I had a cowboy hat on, some Wranglers, a little bitty ukuleles size guitar, and a little mic stand. I was watching Pure Country, the George Strait movie.
I love that movie. I love that movie.
I've ever heard in my entire life.
Bro, there's a picture of me performing, acting like George Strait when I was like 3 or 4 years old. It's amazing.
I love
but
that,
yeah,
dude.
So yeah, it was great, dude.
That was my mom's favorite movie, Pure Country, because she was
my mom's
the biggest
movie too.
Yeah, biggest George Strait fan.
I love George Strait.
My mom loves George Strait, dude.
If you don't like George Strait, I don't
actually met him.
Trust you, so. Really?
Yeah, facts. My dad's really good friend, his daughter married George Strait's nephew, and so we went to the wedding, and he was there, and it was so, I got so much respect for him because he showed up to the wedding totally normal dressed. He came in late and came in the back and sat in the back and was very much like, "Don't bring attention to me. This is
Right.
about him."
Right.
And that was so
Mm,
beautiful.
I respect
Uh,
that.
wow,
but yeah,
that is
super
cool.
great guy. He was so nice,
That's
dude.
cool.
He was
Mm,
super
He
nice.
seems like
But
he would be.
that's
All
crazy.
those old time country stars always seem like they're like
they're just
maybe in
bred
their
different, bro.
fifties. You know? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was
yeah.
a different world back then.
Yeah.
That's like I think a lot of my attraction to like because like I was in a very similar boat with my upbringing. Like my papa, my grandpa, was he got married on horses. Literally, he was on horses when he
That's
got
awesome.
That's pretty
said the
cool.
vows. I mean, so my
Dedication.
grandma from to my dad's side was all country, raising like riding horses, living on the ranch type of thing, and I have pictures of me, 3 or 4 riding a horse, the cowboy hat on, the boots, the whole 9 yards. And I kind of fell
That's
away from
awesome.
that for a while just because of I was living in the city. But man, does it feel good to kind of go back to my roots and
Yeah.
kind of embrace that Southern hospitality vibe and
Yeah.
have the country music on an early, Saturday morning with the sunlight coming in, God's creation shining through. I mean, something about it just feels good. If I could be on a ranch, looking out into my pasture with all my horses running, then
Bro,
man, that
Sam.
that would be amazing.
Yeah, I've gotten in the same boat where like as I grow up and mature, I definitely, and especially now that I'm living in Lufkin, like
Yeah.
I
Well, you're doing it too, man. You just bought your first house, so you're
yeah,
you're getting a little bit of land. You got some land now, dude. So
0.5 or 0.8, I think is what it is.
I thought it was point nines. We're going
Point
point
eight
nine,
two
yeah.
on I
It
got
might be point
so.
0.9.
Yeah,
I
dude.
appreciate that extra point. Yeah, I think it's
Yeah.
0.9.
Yeah, that's awesome, dude. And so you
Point 0.9.
you got into at a pretty early age. You got into rap music. Do you want to
Yeah,
kind of talk a little bit about that?
Excuse me, sir.
yeah, for sure. So yeah, from I think I was 7. My parents got me a guitar, um,
Awesome.
and just fell in love with it. And they got me some, a little bit of lessons. I was probably about 7, and I didn't really care. But started playing guitar a little bit. Really fell in love with like 80s rock, like
Mm.
AC/DC and
Yeah,
Zeppelin and
yeah,
uh,
yeah.
You and
just
everybody else.
Black
Yes.
Sabbath.
One of the
Mhm,
Yeah,
best
mhm,
eras
mhm,
for music. Yeah.
mhm,
facts.
mhm.
It was phenomenal. But
Yeah,
yeah, fell in love with that, and then that was when music really started to really take a focal point in my life. I ended, I was the kind of kid, bro. I would come home from school, and my parents both worked. So and my dad worked shift work. My mom, she would always be working. My grandma lived next door, but I would go home and, dude, I wouldn't put on SpongeBob. I was putting on VH1 Behind the Music. There was a channel called Fuse. I don't even know if it's still around, but it just had documentaries and concerts, and like
oh wow.
that was my life. Like I would go home and I would just study it. Like
Mm.
and then my dad, he had like 3 rap CDs or 4 really. He had like a Shaggy CD, and he had a
Shaggy.
Kid Rock CD, which I made him play all the time.
Yeah.
He had you know the real Slim Shady. He had some Burn CD that had that on it, and then he had a Jay-Z CD that he never let me listen to. Thank God.
Yeah.
But I really started to like rap music, and then probably around like 10 or 12, I started like really getting into it, and just fell in love with it. Just the artistry and creativity of it, because it's basically, I mean, there's poems, but it's like the perfect genre, in my opinion, to get a message across.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
and I just fell in love.
rap stands for rhythm and poetry, right? So I mean, really, it's it's
Exactly.
all about. I mean, at least originally, that's what it was. It
Yeah,
was,
originally.
yeah,
Yeah, but it was incredible. But then, yeah, whenever I really started falling in love with rap, it, obviously started to shape my mentality, the way I thought, what I thought was cool, what I thought wasn't. And from about 12, I like to say that's, hip hop really started raising me. Like, um, It really did. And then by like 14, I was just full blown drug addict, sex addict, alcoholic, um,
Yeah.
very deep into it. And a lot, what, what sucked for me was that, whenever I started making rap music, it was actually pretty good. Like it was pretty, I mean, it wasn't just like some kid picking up and just, trying to rap and
Yeah.
just making
Yeah.
words rhyme. Like it was,
Hmm.
I've always been a really good writer, and I've always been able to really paint a picture.
Yeah.
And so, I was just like, at first I was just making remixes of like very popular songs, and my friends were like, oh, they
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
like, we're like, oh
Yeah.
my God, he's actually good. And then that, from that point, it was just all I cared about was being famous and being successful in music and getting high and sleeping with women. That was literally, that was all I
Yeah.
cared about. And
Yeah.
the
Yep.
fact that I was decent at that definitely hurt me more than it did me good. As I think, so when I was 16, um, my parents, because I was just out of control, and my parents, the best thing that they knew how to do was to send me to military school. And so I went to, a military school in Harlingen for like 6 months, and actually just made me so much worse because I just learned how to be really sneaky and very creative about that, and
Mm,
actually learned how to sell stuff there.
mm.
And so I came back, and obviously at that point, it was like a big deal with my friends, like, oh, oh, he's coming back. And so I came back and just dove. I mean,
Yeah.
so so bad. And then I was 17, and I had manipulated my mom into allowing her to let us drink and have girls come stay the night at our house, just totally outside of anything she would have ever done. She hated it, and my buddy called over a girl I didn't know. I didn't know, I didn't learn her last name till the next day.
Hmm.
Slept with her, and then come to find out, she had lied to me about how old she was. She was actually a whole lot younger, um, and her parents found out, and they pressed charges on everybody. So,
Oh
um,
man.
and so me and like 10 other people were facing like 25 to life for child aggravated sexual assault on a child was the charge. Horrible.
Dang.
I mean, it was bad, dude. And then like my mom, she had been raising hell at our school and with the sheriff's department about the drugs, because it was a very that was kind of the culture in the town, was just like partying. Um, and everyone knew that it had always been that way. So it was kind of like, it was understood, and they kind of
Yeah.
didn't. Yeah, so my mom was just raising hell. So whenever that took place, we, you know, we turned ourselves in, got bonded out, and then somehow our stuff got leaked to the press. And so immediately after that, I mean, we had news people showing up to our house. We were on the front page of our local newspaper. Uh, it was pretty rough. And then, which actually, I never got convicted. It was deferred adjudication. It's a sealed file. Um, but the fact that those newspapers made a story haunts me. I've been
Yeah.
turned down for
Yeah.
jobs just not because of a background check, but just because of um, a Google search, which is something that the devil just taunts me with, because I don't feel like I could really do what I feel called to do, because I mean,
Right.
at this
Right.
point in time, you're gonna get canceled for that, and just be destroyed,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
um, regardless of the facts. But
Mm.
through that time, that actually started a lot of my leaning towards Christ, just because I didn't grow up in a Christian home, household. My mom was, my dad was, but it was like they just went to mass every once in a while, which freaked me out. I thought it was weird.
Yeah.
Um, but they tried the best. I mean, they put me in Christian daycares, and I love VeggieTales still because
Mm.
of that.
Mhm.
But but
Nice.
through that time period, though, like my reputation was so bad, because I was selling stuff, and I was like, I mean, I was the dude, like the sheriff's department. Whenever they called me in and questioned me about all that, the guy was like, "So I hear you're the guy to go to if anyone needs anything." Like, I don't know
Yeah.
what to talk about,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
but yeah, so I had a terrible reputation, and my lawyer was like, "Look, you got to make yourself look good to the public. You look terrible." And I was
Mm,
like, "You're right, but I am." So I was like,
mm,
"Okay, well, the only thing that's believable right now is that I gave my life to God." So I was like, "All right, well, then I'm going to give my life to God then." And that was what I tried to do. I mean, I was somewhat genuine, but nothing changed. I didn't even read the word. I was just trying to you know, put on this
persona.
hat,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
persona.
Yeah,
And
I feel you.
so I started making Christian rap music, but I was still cussing and like talking about crazy stuff. But during this time period, because I had a pending felony, I couldn't be in regular school, so I had to be in alternative school, which was cool because I spent a lot of time writing music, um, but um, it was wild because I had enough understanding at that point. Like I understood the music industry, I understood about the evil and Satanism that's involved, and I wanted to combat that. Like I didn't know how. I didn't know. Like in my mind, I legitimately remember there was a day, which is kind of getting to what I just found that I was so shocked about. There was a day where I was legitimately torn, like actually torn between um, taking that like Illuminati style route and getting to a successful point and then preaching the word, or starting from the ground. Like it's crazy that was actually, but that just
Mm.
goes to show my complete ignorance of God and
Yeah, yeah.
His
Right,
ways.
right.
But it was a real, like, I was genuinely torn about that. And then so I was like talking to people and praying and like trying to it. Anyway, I
You're at a
went back.
crossroads for sure.
I was at a very big
Yeah.
crossroads, and
Yeah.
I went back to my desk, and I, I just grabbed a blank sheet of paper and I just started writing. And I really didn't know what I was writing. I was just kind of writing.
Yeah.
And when I finished, I stopped and I looked at it, and it was like the last couple words were like, uh, "Once this is done, you can then enter into my kingdom, good and faithful servant," or something. It was something that like was verbiage that I didn't know at the time and didn't wouldn't have said at the time, and so it kind of made me go, "Hold on, let me go back through and read this." And then when I flipped it back over, it started from the top. It was literally instructions of how to structure songs, uh, instructions on what I'm supposed to do with music and the effect I'm supposed to have. And it was wild because I was praying like, I mean, if you wanted me, if I'm supposed to start from the bottom, I don't know what that even looks like. I don't know how to go about
Mm,
that. I don't know
that's
like.
awesome.
And
Yeah.
then I started writing, and then it had, I mean, literally how to structure my verses, how to structure my choruses, how to structure the songs, how to make the beats. Um, Wild. Um, and then in that same time period, one day I was outside and I was, sweeping up or something, and there was a custodian lady who was coming from like because it was tucked behind a middle school, so there was some custodian coming from the middle school, and she just started talking to me. This sweet black lady, she started talking to me. She was like, "You plan on going to college whenever you graduate?" I'm gonna pursue music. And she was like, "Really?" And then she just started singing and was like prophesying to me, telling me that if I use my gifts for God, that that He would take me places that I never even dreamed of, and like all this stuff. And then she stopped and she goes, "Have a blessed day," and then just like walked off behind the building. Um, and I was like flustered because I didn't know what
Mm,
just happened. And so I like
Okay.
went inside and I like talked to one of the teachers. I was like, "Hey, this just happened. Have you ever seen this lady?" And I like just described her as best I could, and they were like, "I have no idea who you're talking about.
mm.
Like I've never seen someone who fits that description that's a janitor at the middle school." So
Wow.
that blew my mind, totally blew my mind. And then in that time period, I had my parents got me studio equipment because they thought that was going to help me to, because they were seeing me trying to make Christian music and trying to change.
Right.
So they got me studio equipment. So I started, making music at that time, and uh, during that same 6 months, one of my end of the year exams was to do a report on a topic. And so I chose the power of music, and I did this whole presentation. And um, I still, I wish I could go to that school and pay them money for that, because I want uh, that that exam, because it was, I mean, I had facts about the science of music and what it does to the body and the brain. And
Oh
it was
wow.
really interesting. Um, but anyway, through that time, I had a teacher there at that school. She was like 28, wore yoga pants every day. Didn't realize she was a pedophile, um, but I ended up, sleeping with her, and then I got all big headed. Thought I was, I thought I was like, hey, I done slept with my
Mhm.
teacher. I'm cool now. And
Yeah. Right. Right.
uh, again, just went all the way off the deep end. I mean, I was shooting up and selling stuff, and um, plenty of times in that time period, I should have gone to jail. I should have gotten killed. I should have OD'd. I have so many stories of just God miraculously stopping me from ruining it. And then, yeah, and then it eventually I had moved out of my parents. So I had moved out of my parents' house, um, moved in with my best friend. We were selling stuff out of his house and partying. And uh, I remember one night we had spent all kinds of money. I'm trying to condense this as much as possible.
You're
I
all
had
right.
spent,
Lots of
we had spent,
information.
we had spent stupid amount of money trying to get as much stuff as we could get, coke,
Mm.
pills, alcohol, whatever we could get.
Yeah.
We were just trying to get as messed up as we could. And, 4 or 5 hours in, I'm completely sober, and my buddy is just pouring, and I'm pissed. I was so mad, dude, because I was like, this makes no sense. I should be messed up. Like,
Yeah.
I shouldn't be completely sober right now.
Yeah.
And it didn't make sense, and I was confused. And so we were in the garage and we were smoking, and my buddy was an atheist. He just believed in science. He didn't really, he was,
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
Um, and we're sitting there smoking, and then all of a sudden I just started like trying to minister to him. Like I was just trying to tell him about God, and I had no idea what I was talking about. And I started talking, and then the room got super cold, and we felt the love and peace of God in like a blanket that was thrown over us, just goosebumps. And we were both just sobbing, like uncontrollably sobbing. Um, and then I started talking to him, and while I was talking, that like feeling would intensify when I would speak. Um, and I ended up telling, the Lord told him through me about his miscarried daughter he had never told me about, and like, probably two or three other things that I had no knowledge of whatsoever. And he was just like speaking to him. And then eventually that all kind of settled down. We didn't know what to do. We didn't have words. We were speechless. And then we went back inside. He laid out on the bed, just like staring at the ceiling, trying to understand what just happened. And I'm just kind of standing there, just as I had no word. I didn't even know what just happened. And then I was like, dude, I I have to delete all of my music. I can't keep leading people that way. Like I have to make different music. And that feel like that was real. God is real. And that feeling right there, whatever that was, I want to just do that to the world. And when
Right. Right.
I said that, if it felt like I got hit with an electrical current. Um, and I like lost control of my body. Like I was leaning on an entertainment center, and I was like
Yeah.
borderline having a seizure. It looked like. Um, and then that stopped, and I just walked away and went to sleep. Um, but then, a couple days later, we went to, my buddy had gotten hit up about some freshman, sophomore aged kids who wanted some weed, and I was like, okay, like I'll ride with you. And we pull up, and I had a pocket full of Molly, and I just knew that if I mentioned that I had it, that they'd have bought everything I had for twice the amount of money, daddy's money, that kind of situation. Um, but for the first time, I saw what I was doing for what it was, and I got very convicted and was like, I'm destroying these kids' lives. Like that this is the stuff that has destroyed my life. I'm doing the same thing. And I was like,
Yeah.
I can't do this. I can't. I can't do it. And so I stayed in the car. He got back in. I'm like, bro, I'm done. Like, I'm flushing everything and I'm moving back to my parents. This, like, we know that God is real. We just experienced that. That's real. That was better than everything that I've ever felt with any drug ever. Like,
Hmm.
I'm chasing that, dude. And then flush everything, moved back to my parents' house, and then just started pursuing God with everything. And he started really moving. I really felt that the scripture that speaks on, the old has passed away, the behold, the new is here, like I genuinely felt that new creation. Um, like it, like I look back on my life and it genuinely doesn't feel like me. Like I have to have people remind me of stories because I don't remember a lot of stuff. Like I just kind of remember highlights. And I'm genuinely, he completely changed me as a person, um, in a way that new creation scripture was so real to me.
Mm.
Because just night and day. I mean, it was like my friends were like, I don't even like you're a different person, dude. It's insane.
Right.
Um, but what's wild, I'm remembering now. Right after that time period, like whenever I moved home, um, there was about 2 weeks that were so intense. Like, dude, I had people hitting me up being like, hey, I got all this stuff. It's too much. I have a bunch of extra. You want me to come bring you some stuff for free? And it was like, dude, I've been an addict for 7 years. No one's ever offered me anything for free. And now all of a sudden I get
Wow.
saved and quit and repent. And I've got, I think I had like 3 or 4 people do that. And I was like, this
Hmm.
is like, it was so obvious to me that I was like, oh, that's the devil. I
Yeah.
was like,
No, for
okay,
sure.
no, I'm good. Um,
Wow.
and in that time period, there was also a friend of mine, or I had a friend who I was real cool. You know how it is when you party with everybody, you're kind of cool with everybody. I had somebody that I was cool with who was like a couple years younger than me, but he had an older brother who was like 3 or 4 years old. And that older brother reached out to me because he had started making music and was like wanting to get into it. And I was like, yeah, dude, like let's do it. And so me and him kind of hooked up and we started, trying to make some music. And then he reached out to another guy, and then we started going over there making music. And this dude, he was kind of odd. They were, the dude's older brother was into this, new age type stuff, and so was that other guy. But they were saying that they wanted to make Christian music. And I was like, okay, cool, 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 cool. Um, we only did like one song together, and it was wild because it was the first time that I had. Because before I got saved, like while I was in that alternative school, I was writing a lot, and my writing was incredible. But then, not that long after that, um, the way I made music started to change, where it was like it would just kind of come to me. Like I would just kind of feel it out, and there would be I'd find the rhythm and melody, and then it would just kind of all start to like come to me. Um, that one song I did with those guys was the first time that actually happened again, because that stopped for a long time. But to where I was getting, I mean, I wrote my verse in like 5 minutes, um, and it was wild because I recorded my verse, everything was cool. We had gotten a show set up at Warehouse Live, which is a pretty big venue in Houston,
Yeah. Yeah.
um, and we were preparing for all that and everything, and then I I had this knowing that I needed to leave. It was like, nope, you need to leave now. You don't need to be a part of that. You don't need to go to that show.
Yeah. Warehouse
Um,
Live is a pretty big. That's
it's a
that's
big
that's a
venue.
nice venue. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
it's
not
a
bad
big
at all.
venue.
Yeah.
Right. But it was, I mean, stuff was like moving really fast. And um, I kind of I don't remember exactly how it happened, but I ended up leaving. Um, and then I, I don't remember if the dude told me, the older brother, I believe he told me, he was like, look, that dude was actually a Satanist, and he was actually preparing to sacrifice one of us, for
Whoa.
fame. Uh, and it was wild because when he said that, I pictured doing that venue, and it was like I pictured some dude in a suit in the back.
Devil
I mean,
wears
I'll
a
never
suit and
know because I
tie.
never did that.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
but it was wild because when I went back after that and listened to that verse I did, um, it was wild because knowing that that was that dude's intention, the like the beginning of my verse, I was speaking to that. It was like devil getting at me, but I tell him he can't have me, and was like,
Mm,
and and I had no idea what was going on. But that was pretty
that's
cool. And then I
crazy.
ended up, um,
It's a pretty intense
you know,
situation to be in, and especially
Yeah.
if you don't realize it. And I
I had
can't
no
help but
clue.
think, like, after all these things that I don't mean to interrupt at all your story, but just
Oh,
hearing
you're
all the
good, bro.
different things, man. I know you kind of really well. You're my best friends, and I love you very much.
Right back
Um,
at you, bro.
and it's just crazy. Some of these things I'm hearing for the first time, and it's it's amazing to hear how much, like, it goes back to, like, when Jesus told us we have eyes but cannot see, we have ears but do not listen, right? Like, so many
Yeah.
times, God was slapping you in the face, and he didn't give up on you.
No, we
Like,
didn't.
even though you mentioned, like, you might have, you knew it, but then you kind of still dabbled. And don't get me wrong, it's not me judging. I'm imperfect, yeah,
Me too.
100%. But I've done the same thing. But no matter what, God still was giving another sign, and He's still protecting you, knowing that He was reading your heart. Because I know you very well, and you have an amazing heart. And I think you've always had that. It's just the devil was able to pervert it. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
as he
exactly. I
does.
agree.
So that's super encouraging, man, to hear.
Yeah. Yeah. No, no, he is so faithful, dude.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
I mean, even now, I'm still. I mean, his faithfulness is unmeasured, bro. It's insane. I gave him every reason to give up on me, bro.
Right.
Genuine. I mean,
Yeah.
every reason.
Yeah. Hmm.
And now he saw something that I didn't, and
And so did that, like, kind of motivate you, like, especially I imagine seeing something like that, being involved in something that, for me, that's intense. Like, I find out that the guy I was recording with actually going to this venue that is Warehouse Live. It's a very well known venue in Houston, and then there was a possibility that you could have been sacrificed so that you could,
I don't.
like
And like, I
that's
don't
pretty
know if he was
intense.
serious. Yeah, a
That,
little
either
bit.
way, that's pretty intense. But did that motivate you to say, you know what, I'm gonna hit the ground running and go even harder for the Lord?
Yeah, I think so. Because I mean, because of the way I got saved, it was just I didn't really have a choice. I mean, it was like just all in. Like the it was just all in, and then once I realized that there was warfare with it, I was
Right.
about it. I was like, oh, bet, like cool. I love that.
Yeah, that's
And
crazy.
yeah, that you're right. Yeah, that definitely probably did play a pretty big role in that like fire that I had. That and
Yeah.
just the fact that like, I mean, the way I got saved was God became real. It wasn't like there was no logic. There was no like I wasn't convinced. It was literally like an experience. Like I experienced God, and it was like, oh, like he's real. Like
Right.
okay,
Yeah.
well then
Yeah.
that changes everything. Um, but yeah, I think that mixed with what I had already um, envisioned for myself and what I had already, somewhat understood. Um, yeah, I definitely was extremely militant in the beginning of my walk, like
Yeah.
extremely militant.
And
Uh,
me and Matt were actually, it's crazy you said that, because me and Matt were just talking about that the other day. Um, Talking about how there are some people that need that. Show me the proof. Show me the proof, and then I'll
yeah,
believe in Jesus. And Matt, you made a great point. It's like, man, 90% of our life is faith. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
we
More
have
than
to have
that, really.
faith
Yeah.
that, yeah. And so that's super important. That's awesome. And then
I
so
mean that.
going from, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Go
No,
ahead.
no,
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 go
no.
ahead.
Go ahead.
No, you
No,
go.
that was it. Go ahead. No,
Okay.
no, you.
So going from there, You're married now. You have some
Yep,
boys, right? So,
I do.
do you mind touching a little bit on that? How you came about meeting your wife
Yeah,
and
yeah. So yeah. So right after I got saved, I started. Uh, there was a church in Baytown. I don't know if you know the Christian singer Leland. Um,
mm,
Not
okay,
familiar.
well his he was a part of Bethel. I think he still is a part of Bethel, but his parents have a church in Baytown, and it was really like the only one I knew of. And so
yeah,
um, they had a celebrate recovery program there. So I started going to that and just started going to church. Sorry guys.
I got
Uh,
you.
and then um, that actually that church played a huge role in my walk and actually in a lot of other people that I brought. Um, but they had an outreach program. I'm not knocking them at all. They're amazing people. I love them so much. But at the time, their their outreach consisted of going and knocking on doors and reading from a pamphlet. And I was like,
sounds a
no,
little bit like
it's not
something
like
I might have done in my past.
exact. Yes, right. It was very JW for sure.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
but but I saw that they were doing that, and I was like, that's not how you talk to people. Like,
hmm
no, dude, you can't go in the hood and just knock on a door and like start reading something. Like, no,
yeah,
that's not impactful. So I joined with the intent to help um, them see that there's a better way, basically. And because while the first thing I went to was in the apartment complex down there where I had partied in and knew a dude who the day after I left he got in a shootout, ended up getting killed. Um,
mm,
that's another way that God saved my life. I mean, I should have been with him at that time,
mm.
but I felt like we needed to leave, and so we ended up leaving in the morning. And then that day he got in a shootout. But yeah, they went to that apartment complex, and I was like, yeah, we're not. Like I threw out the pamphlet. Was like, no, we're just gonna open the doors. And then so I kept doing that for a little bit, and then one week they were like, hey, we're gonna go. There's a homeless ministry in Houston. We're gonna go and help out. It's a lady, and she's makes a bunch of food at her house and then brings it around the corner. And it was awesome. And I was like, okay, cool. And then we went, and it was beautiful. She was just like, she wasn't like going and just giving them food. She was like going and like genuinely loving the people and like genuinely talking to them and spending time with them. And like they could see that it was real. And I was like, that's beautiful. And so I just kept going back. And she was beautiful, straight up. She was beautiful. But I was at the time I had gotten to a point in my life where I wasn't looking for women. I told God, like, I don't care about women. They're all sisters. I'm not going to walk around looking for a wife. That's a waste of time. I'm going to focus on you, and that's what I was doing. And I kept going back because I loved what she was doing. And so I would I mean, I'd meet up with her, and we'd go out. And um, eventually, I started noticing small stuff that was like, you know, felt like God was showing me stuff like she has a tattoo right here behind her ear that is the exact same thing I used to draw on my hand in school,
Oh
uh,
wow,
which was
that's
like,
crazy.
what are the
Yeah,
chances?
Right.
yeah.
And there was just a lot of like really amazing stuff like that. She was she fit the picture of what my dream girl was. Um, and so we ended up getting together and didn't do it right, but we tried to fix it. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
and then, yeah, we started having babies, man. And
That's awesome.
yeah,
That's
man, it's
awesome.
good. It's been a beautiful ride.
Yeah,
Beautiful.
you guys are great. You guys visited my house last weekend. It was really awesome to see you and your boys, man. And Cheyenne, she is great, man. She's super in tune
She
and
is.
there. She's part of the moment. She's not, I didn't see her on her phone, texting and tweeting and stuff. I mean, she
She
was
hates it.
she was in the moment.
She
She's
hates it.
genuine. Yeah, she's genuine with the people, and so all
Yeah,
that
she is.
ministry, it definitely reflects in who she is today. So that's awesome, man.
I couldn't agree more.
That's
I
beautiful.
could
And
not agree more.
And so you're still doing like a little bit of the music thing, right? I know you have done some performances and stuff, and
Yeah.
uh,
So, but
no, that was it. That was it.
okay, sorry, dude. But yeah, yeah, no, yeah, once I got saved, I started, um, and I started really understanding things a little bit better. I knew that, like, okay, I'm called to do this. I'm supposed to do this. It was so clear to me. I mean, and I had a clear vision, and I was running after it, really, and God was moving. Um, and then I got to a point where I've always struggled with doubt. Like I've always struggled to believe that that's what I'm supposed to do. And, I, I, I'm so self-reflective and I understand the gravity of what music ministry is, or any kind of ministry and any kind of pedestal. And I understand the responsibility and, um, I, I never wanted, um, my intention to not be pure in what I was doing. I never wanted to think it was about me, and so I've always struggled because of what I mean. Christian rap, like I mean, it's rap music. You look at the world's rap music. That's a that can be a difficult transition, and it is for a lot of people. A lot of people they
Yeah.
don't have a clear picture on what that is, and they end up
Yep.
causing a lot more damage than good.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
And
Yep.
so I've always been, very hesitant with it in a sense of like, I'm not just trying to be a famous Christian rapper and, pimp the pulpit. That's not what I'm trying to do. So I've always struggled with like, is this really what I'm supposed to do? Or is this like my own, selfish, prideful desire you
Mm.
know, or I feel like I'm not equipped or, I've always struggled with a lot of disbelief and doubt, since being saved with this. And there's been a time I'm just now about to start to really step into it, but for the last, like, I don't know, probably 5, 6 years, um, there's been like handfuls of people who have kept me somewhat plugged in, um,
Yeah.
to music. Um, and honestly, I don't think if I'm pretty confident that if God have didn't send those handfuls of people who would randomly reach out and encourage me, or randomly like a lot of the events that you've seen me do is people that I've built relationships with, that believe in the call in my life, that are just persistent in trying to push me towards it. Um, and I can't thank God enough for that. But yeah, I haven't made any new music aside from features. I've done a couple features for, a guy named Ty Jackson. He's a prophet, amazing man, just
Yeah.
a phenomenal guy. You find him all over social media. He's got a pretty big following.
I think I heard that one
He's
right. You sent me that song.
yeah.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was the
Very
the
cool.
one. Thank
Very
you,
cool.
man.
If we can find a way to link that, Matt, in the Twitch or
Yeah,
in the
drop
chat,
me a link at some point, and I
that'd
can
be awesome. Yeah.
I can
Before it's over, I'll for sure we'll drop some links that way.
yeah.
If
Yeah,
anyone's watching, they can check that out, man. Because it was very cool. It was very
you're
awesome.
awesome, bro.
Yeah.
You're awesome, dude.
I'm not. I'll be frank. I'm not the biggest rap guy. But I when I listened to that song, I definitely was smiling. It was it was really cool.
Awesome.
It was very awesome.
It's all God, bro. I mean, like, I have a stutter. Um, I When I was in, elementary school, I had to I had a speech class during the day, and then whenever I would leave school, my parents would pick me up a little bit early, and I would go to Texas Children's and I had a speech therapist, because I had a horrible stutter. I like couldn't talk, um, and it's crazy because the only times that I'm like totally fluent and never stutter is when I'm singing, rapping, or preaching.
Mm,
This is the only times I don't stutter.
yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, dude, I don't even remember why I brought that up. To be honest, I'm
Hey,
like, oh
it's
yeah,
just
it's God. It's not me,
Yeah,
dude.
yeah.
it's
It's 100%. Yeah. No, I believe that, man. That's awesome. I know that. I've I think the closest I ever gotten to that was me and Tanner sat down, Golden, and we were just like bumping. Dude, something came over the night, man. Like it was, something came over. We just started like we were kind of freestyle rapping a little bit, and then I was playing piano. We put some music on, and then we just started singing to the Lord, dude. Like out of nowhere, like
Awesome.
me, my wife, and Alyssa and Tanner, and we just started. Like I was kind of freestyle rapping, he was freestyle rapping. Then we just like, we can't rap, so let's just sing. And we started singing praises to the Lord, man. It
That's
was
awesome.
dude, the energy in that room was like electric. Like something about
I
music
bet.
and the Lord and worship, even imperfect worship, right?
Yeah.
Is just it's very rewarding and it feels great. You
Well,
know what I
bro,
mean?
you gotta realize that is one of the few things that we have on Earth that was not created here.
Right.
Music was
Yeah.
not
Wow.
created on Earth. It was not. That
Yeah.
was created in heaven for worship. And the
Mm,
devil was made. I mean, the Bible says that he was made with pipes and organs in his body.
yeah.
He was
Yeah.
made for worship, and he was the
Hmm.
worship leader. I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, dude, it's one of the few things that we have here on Earth that was not created here.
Right.
And that's a great point, mate, too, because I mean, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Lucifer was in charge of the choir. I don't know if
Worship.
it'd be called a choir, but he was in charge of
He
the
was the worship leader.
orchestrating. He was orchestrating the worship, right? And so
Yes.
that like Lucifer understands music
Yeah. To
more
think that he
than
wouldn't use that here is
yeah,
ridiculous.
yeah, and it's he understands. It's one thing that I do my best not to do is I know that you got to be very careful and cautious because he's been around since the beginning of
Yeah.
man.
He's
I
not
mean,
dumb. I mean,
yeah,
we like to call him dumb, but he's not.
yeah,
He's intelligent.
yeah. No, I agree. I
He's
agree, man.
retarded, but he's intelligent.
He's intelligent, but I think there was a
Everything
video that I
fails.
watched the other day that made me think about it differently, um, and it made me think of it earlier when you were talking about fighting the battles and stuff like that. Is like the war's already won, right? Like
Yeah,
Yeah.
we're not fighting a battle, and I used to think that all the time too. That's why
We're doing
the
cleanup.
only trick that the devil has is lying, right? He's the original liar. That's all that he has at his disposal. He is powerless. He is weak. He is nothing, right?
yeah,
He is literally nothing. All that he is he's an expert liar. So he tricks you into thinking that you're fighting a battle, but the battle's already been won, right?
What,
Like
Matt?
you're not fighting a battle.
Would you say that maybe it's the only power he has is the power that we give him?
Yeah, yeah. He
Matt, would
tricks you
you?
into
That's
thinking
a
that
great
you're
way to
fighting
put
a
it.
battle when Jesus has already won the
Yeah,
battle.
yeah,
You're not fighting the battle. It's already
Come
been
on,
won.
preach.
It's already been won.
yeah. Amen,
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
amen.
So
Yeah, we're doing
Yeah.
all that
cleanup
you're
here.
doing is giving. You have to give him the power. That's it.
Mm,
That's you have to give him the power. He has no power.
Whether
No
knowingly or
power.
unknowingly.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Knowingly
mm.
or yeah, right. And you could do that
that's spot on.
unknowingly.
No, you're right.
That's 90% of the 90% of the planet does it unknowingly. So
Oh yeah,
the entirety of the music industry.
Great point.
To use your your example of kind of like him being like the leader of worship music in heaven, right? It's like, of course he uses that here because it's a great tool. He can get you to
yeah,
worship him without even realizing that you're worshiping him. So,
yeah.
Right. Yeah,
Man,
and
that
music
that's
is. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was gonna say I've had that. It was actually me and you were talking about that. I was one of my like when I was first kind of making it a firm decision on what I put in my ears. Like when I first was starting to really learn about Christ and stuff like that. One of my, I guess I was called guilty pleasure listens was Juice World, right? And I I loved listening to Juice World, man. I really did. I was a big fan of him, and I remember one of his songs I was listening to, and it was just like I was singing the lyrics. And I stopped and was like, "What in the heavens am I saying out loud right now?" Like I kind of put it all together in my head, and I actually called you right after it,
Yeah.
and I was it was like something about I'm already dead and stuff like that, and it was like basically asking for death. And I was like, man, that is I can't believe I even spewed that out of my mouth, and it was chanting it over and over. It was the freaking chorus, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And yeah, so
And to
you're
think
definitely right
that
about
there's
that. I've
not,
experienced that, man. It's crazy. We don't even
and to
notice it
think,
sometimes.
Yeah.
yeah,
You know?
and to think that there's not people who are involved in witchcraft and stuff that are not playing into that, because you're literally creating something for people to chant back. Like,
Yeah,
I mean, do you know how easy that is to cause people to perform rituals themselves?
Right.
Like, dude, it's and music itself. I mean, it's literally the combination of your heart and your mind and your soul, because your mind is picking up lyrics and message and all that, and your heart is, picking up emotion of the beat, and it's, I mean, your
and
soul is fully
frequencies.
engaged.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
like your soul, all of your being is fully engaged in that, whatever you're listening to. I mean, you're fully engaged if you're
Yeah,
really listening to it.
Right.
And
yeah,
then in that, for you to then start with, because a lot of creating music is fostering an experience. It's like stewarding an experience, or creating or leading someone through an experience. It's not so much that the music coupled with the message is an experience. So when you're fully, I mean, you can literally, through creating music, if you're intentional about the way you're creating it, you can cause someone to believe and feel and think a certain way, and also say certain things. Like, I mean, it's, dude,
yeah. Amen.
if I had a list of all the curses I put on myself just from singing along with rap music, it would blow my mind of it.
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
no, I agree.
it's unreal.
Yeah, and
It's
I mean it's
unreal.
pretty blatant nowadays. I think with
Yeah, more so than it
with
was
the
20 years ago. That's for
intentions.
sure.
Yeah, certainly. Yeah, I mean you can turn on almost, it feels like, any music video, and like how many people are like wearing, like devil type
Devil
costumes,
horns.
right? Like Lil Nas
Yeah.
X is famous for it, for doing it recently, but he's not alone in that. There's been
No,
so many more cases recently.
and the themes have
So
been there forever.
yeah, the
It's just
theme is
now
true.
they're
Yeah,
getting more
yeah, more
prevalent.
flamboyant with it, so to speak. So
Yeah,
um,
yeah,
yeah, it
it's
definitely
spot on.
feels much more in your face than it used to
It
be.
is,
Um,
Yeah, it feels like
and
you can't
that's
get away from a
years
lot of
of
it.
leading up.
yeah,
It's years of leading up to it. I mean, they've slow rolled that for years.
yeah,
It seems like we're kind of at an end goal, you know, with the messaging and, you know, the in what is what it's causing in the world. Because, dude, music is, I mean, the way that I always describe it is that, you know, entertainment rules society and culture, or entertainment rules culture. Culture rules
Yes.
society. Society controls the world. At the end of it, the entertainment that you're feeding the population is going to have a direct impact on absolutely everything.
right,
Yeah.
Um,
It's entertainment. I mean, in general, like you're saying, and I think a lot of it, uh, you know, for me personally, man, I try to stay away from, I do my background check, so to speak, right before I like really sit down or subscribe to someone and listen, because I try my best to at least plan out a route that's going to at least come from good intentions, right? And because so much of it, man, seems to be just perverted and corrupt, and like it's so insane to me. The word my dad used to use, the phrase was incremental demoralization, right? So it's like a
that's
trickling
that's
effect,
Yuri
great.
right?
Bezmenov.
What was that, Matt?
Yuri Bezmenov.
Is that one of his phrases?
He talks about that a lot back in like
It's
1980 something.
and you know
He's
what's
a former
crazy?
KGB agent who's talked about um, the
Oh, I know what you're talking about, actually.
KGB's plan to demoralize and destabilize the United States through cultural
Mm,
manipulation. So
and dude, it's crazy because I did
To be
not
honest,
believe
I
it.
don't.
I did not believe when I was a kid, man. I was like, ah, man, I can play that video game. It won't make me love violence more. Or, oh, I
yeah,
can listen to that song. It
Right.
won't. It
well, I
won't
mean,
affect my moods. And
it's the you are what you surround yourself with, right? So if you surround yourself with people who, you know, do certain things, and you surround yourself with music that says certain things, and you know, entertainment that does and says certain things, then you can't help but to pick those up, whether it's consciously or subconsciously. So humans
Yeah,
are the most social creature on the planet. So to think that we wouldn't, like, that's what we do, right? Like, and you notice that, like, the way that you interact with us compared to the way that you interact with your wife,
right.
you put on
Right.
personas because you act differently with different people. That's
Yes,
human
for
nature.
sure.
So
Absolutely.
Right.
And too, like I
For sure.
remember for me, like the most real the best example I can give for myself is like I remember hearing my first like super heavy metal song ever because I
I
loved
love it.
heavy rock as a kid. I was raised on the Eagles, well as my dad being that era, and but I remember like listening to first like my first time I listened to 945 The Boys, you know what I mean? Or like, I heard something like that was a heavy that was screaming that shock value. I remember the shock value when I first heard
Yeah.
something like, I'm talking like, Chevelle, like something that would be considered a pretty alternative level. And I just remember that shock value. And then, man, within the next maybe couple years, I was trying to be a vocalist on a band screaming, like just absolute craze. Like the scale went up so tremendously. It's just crazy how at one point that was a shock value just to hear someone raise their voice in a song, and then next thing you know, I'm trying to sound as evil as I possibly can in a mic. You know what I mean? And it's just it
Right.
just actually experienced and looking back on that, because like I said before, like I didn't believe the whole increment. It's just like, that's not going to get to me, whatever, whatever. But to like actually watch my body and my brain mentally go through that, and
Yeah.
it's kind of crazy, you know,
That's
to look
wild,
back on.
dude. I mean, like I remember there for sure. There's two specific examples I can give. There was I remember there was one night me and um, there was a friend of mine he was about 4 or 5 years older than me. He rapped. His little sister was a year older than me, and she sang, and both very talented. The older brother, me and him got really close. He ended up being the person who introduced me to shooting up stuff. But
Mhm.
we were we were in Houston at some studio, and we were all going to record some song together. Me, him, and his sister. And we were in the studio, doing drugs. I was passed out. I passed out in the studio for about 3 or 4 hours,
Mm.
just face down on the table, passed out. And then they like woke me up, and they're like, "Bro, you like, do you have your verse done? It's time for you to record." And I was like, "Give me like 5 minutes." And then I just like quickly wrote something down, went in and recorded it. Um, and they were like, "Whoa, that was great, dude." And then they ended up releasing it. Um, and like it was crazy because it was such a lustful song. Like it was
Mhm.
such a lustful song, and it was crazy because I remember they released it, and then I went back to school, and it was like all of a sudden everybody wanted to sleep with me, and it was like the strength. It was, I mean, not everybody, you know what I mean, but it was like all of a sudden I had crazy sex appeal apparently. Um,
Mm.
and then and it was wild how I remember seeing that. It was like that's crazy. And then there was another
Yeah.
time I had invited a girl over to my studio, and I like played some music that I had been working on, and this girl started having an orgasm just listening to the music. And I remember
Mm.
thinking that's the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. I'm gonna kick you out as soon as this song's over because I do like the song. and but I remember thinking like that's first off, I don't understand how that's even possible. That's strange, and I'm sorry, it's a little nasty, but like
Right.
Yeah.
that's
No.
that ain't normal. And but I just remember seeing the influence that it would have on people and being shocked
Yeah.
because I
Mm.
didn't expect it to be so deep. Like I didn't like I knew it
Right.
was
Right.
music. I thought it was cool, and I thought people might like it, but to see a physical psychological reaction to it like that was strange and really weird. Um,
Mm.
but it's wild too because I look back and I see that um, it, not even just the power of the actual music itself, but just the influence that it takes. bro, there's so many people that I can look back and look at that it seemed like they also tried to take that like music route, and like there's a couple people that are not here anymore.
Right, right.
And yeah, it's wild. I mean, the music is it's a tool for sure. I mean, it's a tool, and especially rap. I mean, rap is you're preaching over music,
Yeah.
regardless of what message you're preaching. You're preaching a perfectly constructed message that is very intentional, and not just the lyricism, but the actual music and the effect that like music has on the physical body is unreal, dude. Like there's the one of the most dangerous surgeries in the world. It's on your femur bone, I believe. And it's not that the actual surgery is deadly and dangerous. It's that they have to use so much anesthesia that the anesthesia can kill you.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's why
Yeah.
it's so dangerous. It's not because of what
Hmm.
they're actually doing, but because of the anesthesia that they have to use. And I believe it was Switzerland. Some doctors figured out that if they played classical music in the operating room, that they only had to use a fourth of the
Yes.
amount of anesthesia.
I heard about this. Yeah.
And it's like,
I
I
mean, I
mean,
definitely love me some classical music. Like anybody
I
Oh
who
yeah.
says
mean,
that music doesn't have an effect on you, if you, I would challenge you to listen to like Swan Lake, and not be like, I don't know, like there's just something about it that's just.
Yeah.
I think it's that it is the pinnacle of music. Every other type of music, every other genre of music falls short of like classical, like Beethoven
I
or
would agree.
Bach or
I
something
would
like
agree.
that. Like
Mm.
Yeah.
everything has merit, everything is great. Don't get me wrong,
Right.
but
But you really
yeah,
experience
Bach
the
is
control over emotion and
yes,
like because
like
that's I
no other
mean
form of
they're
music can
facilitating.
like instantaneously in a matter of seconds can get that physiological response like classical music can. At least for me. So.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I agree. I used to listen to classical music a lot when I trained, and it was actually like you could noticeably tell the difference in like your mood, even your effort. I found
Yeah.
like your stamina, which was weird. But everything you just were more relaxed. Your breathing was on point, so therefore your stamina, I guess. And yeah, it was great.
Anecdotally,
When,
"Eye of the Tiger" is the most motivational song on the planet.
I totally agree. I
Listen,
couldn't agree with you more.
so when I was younger, we lived in like this. We had like a little farmhouse, right? And had like a barn, and it was like 3 or 4 acres, and we were poor. We were like really poor, um, and we had a push mower, like an old, just crappy push mower, and it was like one of those situations where if I listened to "Eye of the Tiger" when I'm push mowing that, it was literally it took me less time to mow it. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't know what it is about it. I would listen to that on repeat, and I'd be done in like a third of the time as it would normally take me.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it's crazy
That's
stuff.
incredible.
So, music is
Stand over
crazy
that
like
the
that because
mower
it's
dance.
yeah, yeah. Like I don't know what it is. It's just like it gets you going. Man, "Eye of the Tiger" still to this day. If I spark
Yeah,
that
bro.
up,
Makes you
I'm ready
want,
to run through a brick wall. Like it.
bro. It makes you want to punch a cow carcass, dude.
Yeah.
It's unreal.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. 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 It's like music is super unique because it's like it's like it encapsulates, like the old saying, like the pen and the sword, right? Like the pen is mightier than the sword. It's both
Right.
encapsulated
Yes.
in one. It's like
Yes.
it's obviously poetry, and you can calm somebody, but you can also rouse somebody to
Yeah, dude.
to anger
Big
as
time.
well with it. So it's
Big time, bro.
certainly special. I guess you said you haven't been working on any form of music here recently. I had that question wrong there.
No, I mean I've done a couple features for my buddy Ty,
Right. Right.
um, but I haven't been pursuing it really at all for the last probably 2 or 3 years.
Yeah. Is that something
But
like you plan in the future? Get writing again and like an
yeah,
album or anything? Or?
yeah. Well, at this point, I mean, I'm kind of at the point where I mean, God, every time that I've put down music so many times, dude.
Right.
Like I've quit doing music so many times, and to be fair, it was always with I mean, there was a good intent, and a good motive. But every time I do, something happens,
Right.
and it's usually somebody will say, "Hey, you want to come do this?" for me, and because I love them, I'm like, yeah, dude, absolutely. And then, I'll start getting back into it, and then God will remind me, like, hey, this is what I made you to do. Like, this is what you're supposed to be doing, and I can't run from that anymore. I mean, even you guys asking me to be on this was like just reestablish, like, hey, this is what you're supposed to be doing, dude. Like, you need to focus. So, and now that I've moved into this a new house, I can start to work on that. I have to get another iLock, which is like a key for all of my software. One of my kids, he took it and swears that he didn't, and I have no idea where it is. So I got to replace that. It's gone.
Yeah.
There's no telling.
Yeah.
So I got to replace that, and
Or
then I
you'll
can
find
start
it
jumping.
right after you buy the new one. One of the two.
Well, we moved, so it's
Oh,
gone.
it's gone.
Yeah, it's gone.
That's
But
awesome.
yeah, the plan is for me to replace that here probably in the next week or two, and then start working on stuff again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only asked because I don't know, when I heard that, because that was my assumption that you weren't really doing it anymore, and I felt compelled to ask you about it and to like push you towards it. So I don't know
See,
why, but
that's what I'm
I
talking
felt
about.
compelled about it. So
That's what I'm talking about.
take that
God will
as you
do
will,
that.
but I felt compelled
Yeah.
to ask the question. So I've been waiting for since you were talking about it originally, and it's been on my
Well,
mind the whole time, which is saying something because
thank you for
anybody
your
that
patience
knows
and
me
your
might have
obedience.
got goldfish memory. So the fact that I've remembered it for 20 or 25 minutes that's a miracle in and of itself, to be honest with you.
Wow.
So, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Wow, that's amazing.
definitely was
Wow.
curious about that.
Yeah.
I
I
know.
need to.
Good, sir.
Oh, I was just saying I need to. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I know, Austin. Did you want to ask about? What was it? Was it 13?
Oh yeah,
Romans 13.
we have the scripture. So last week we kind of touched on this. I don't. I think it's one of those we flipped open, or we were talking about Romans 14. I think is what we were doing, and then
Okay.
We're talking about
organically
Romans 12, right? Or was it
Romans
14?
12, 14. 14 is the one that's talking about
Oh yeah, nine. Was it
uh
9 through 21 or something like that, or 9 through 21? I don't remember.
yeah, talking about the Messiah is why we do not judge our brother.
Yeah, yeah. You went from
Um
14, and then I
yeah,
started talking about 12. It's 12,
yeah,
9 through 21 is like my favorite. My favorite.
yes,
Some of my
about
favorite scriptures.
hypocrisy, and then 13 is talking about I'll just read the first couple verses, or first few verses here, right? And so it says, "Let every person submit himself to the governing authorities, for there is no authority except from God, and those that exist are put in place by God. So whoever opposes the authority has resisted God's direction, and those who have resisted will bring judgment on themselves." Right? And for me, when I first read that, it's like, wait, so Biden's supposed to be here, right? Like that
It's not
was like
something.
that was like honestly, I'm just being honest, right? That was
Yeah.
like my first um and then as we kind of spent a few minutes looking at it, Matt kind of share his perspective and was kind of curious what your perspective is on that. And because if we continue to read, which we can do so, right? So we can kind of get the full understanding here. Um in verse 3 it says, "For leaders cause no fear for good behavior but for bad. Now if you do not want to fear the authority, do what is good and you'll get his approval, for he is God's servant to you for your good. And if you do evil, be afraid, for he does not carry the sword for no reason, for he is God's servant, an avenger who inflicts punishment on the evildoer. Therefore, it is necessary to be in submission, not only because of punishment, but because of conscience." And then it just continues on, just talk about paying taxes, and just pay everyone what is due, and to not owe anything.
Yeah, I think the pinnacle question or the pinnacle point there that we were talking about was really, um, submitting to. Was really, I guess it was really what 13:1. Let everyone submit to the governing authorities,
Yeah,
since there
for
is
there
no
is no
authority
yeah.
except from God.
Mm-hmm.
So and that's the one that I think that kind of spurred the question. Um, Certainly, I think it's important to. Part of what helped me understand it, at least,
Yeah.
to some degree, was think the Bible is big on definitions and understanding context, right? Like perfect example, a lot of people are like, they always like to point to the parts of the Bible where it's talking about like this group annihilates this group, right? And it's like, oh well, they're killing all these people and they're doing all this. Where from a military perspective, right,
Hmm.
annihilate from what we would call annihilate compared to what the military would consider annihilation is different, right? So my point being, definitions are important in the Bible. Clearly, I
They
think
are.
anybody who studies the Bible would know that. So here, at least in this context, I would assume that it means to. You don't have to like everything that they do, but to accept, right? So, part of the definition of accept or to submit is to accept um, or yield to a superior force. So, like, you can accept that, to use your example, um, that Biden is president and that he's the one that's in charge, and you want the best for him,
Yeah.
and you do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
You pay your taxes, you
Yep.
follow the law. Doesn't mean you have to like everything about it, but
Right.
that's the way that I interpret it, at least.
Yeah, it seems to me like a lot of that is instruction to the church to live a peaceable life,
Yeah.
to um, to be a good example of what this is supposed to look like. Um, I I'm torn about because obviously if the government is telling you to do something that is against God, I'm not going to obey that.
Right.
Um, I'll Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego all day, dude. Um, and at the same time, you've got plenty of examples in this word of, people rebuking
Right.
government leaders
Right.
for their sins and for their wrongdoing. Because, like it says, God puts these people. They have an obligation to God to rule the people correctly
Right.
and in a godly way. Um,
Yeah.
and I do believe that God often will. There was what's this the Archbishop in New Zealand? What's his name? Do you know what I'm talking about? The white guy,
Marmari.
Orthodox Christian. Yes. Okay.
Marmari
He said
Emmanuel. Yeah.
something that was one of the most profound things I've heard in a while. He said that you know because America has um, become deaf and dumb to the gospel. I'm butchering what he said. I feel like I am, but basically because um, of the way we are, that he gave us um, he he gave us Biden. Because, man, I wish I could remember exactly what he said. Can you pull that up? Is that
I've
something that you can
heard.
pull up, Jamie?
I
Can you
can
pull it up,
certainly
Jamie?
find real quick.
Yeah. Hey, why you're doing that
It's
too?
amazing. Yeah, but
I mean, the greatest part about uh, one thing I've always loved about reading the Bible is I'll read like eight verses of a chapter, and then I'll be like, oh man, what is it? And then I'll just say, okay, let me read the rest of the chapter, and then I read the rest of the chapter, and I even get a better understanding of what's going on here. And in the latter verses of the chapter, when it says, "Oh no one anything except to love one another, for the one who loves
Cole, he's my
another
miracle
has
child.
fulfilled the Torah." For the commandments, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not covet, and any other commandment are summed up in this word: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. Love does no harm to a neighbor, therefore love is the fullness of the Torah. And then it goes on to talk about, that besides this, you know the time that is that it is already the hour for you to awaken from your sleep. For now our salvation is nearer than when we
The
first
White
came to
House
trust.
again in
The night is
2020.
almost gone, the day is near. So
So
let
they
us put
rig
off the
the
works of
elections.
darkness
They
and put on the
think
armor
they
of light. Let us
think they
walk
can do
properly,
whatever they
as
wish.
in the day,
My
not in carousing and drunkenness, not in sexual promiscuity and sensuality, not in strife and envy. Instead, put on the Lord Messiah Yeshua and stop making provision for the flesh for its
Do you know who
cravings.
put Joe Biden in the White
And I
House?
think that ties in so well with submitting to governing authorities, right? Because we want to so much of like in my opinion, put on that new personality is like one thing I've told my wife before. We have a family that come over. Say, well, we don't have to necessarily sit there and preach to them, but let's just be an example to them. Like let's just be an example of what Christians, how they live their life and who they are, and that way we glorify God, right? And so very much so in these latter verses it talks about like let's walk properly, right? Like let's be good Samaritans and outstanding citizens and not be running around breaking laws and putting our middle fingers up to society and governing authorities. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like let's
Represent
walk.
Christ well.
Yes.
I think I found it.
And
Yeah.
yeah, man, what you got?
You have to let me
Way to
know
go,
for
Jamie.
sure if it's you have to let me know for sure if it's the correct
Okay.
one. Oh, actually, hold on a second. Do it this way. Let's do it like this. It should work. And we'll share screen. Let me know. You see that? Or no?
No.
No.
You had to click on the watch stream.
Oh yeah. Click on that if you see it.
Okay. Yep. Yeah, I can see.
I'm not for sure if it's what you're talking about, but I think it is.
The White House again
Okay.
in 2020. So they rigged the elections. They think they can do whatever they wish. My goodness. Do you know who put Joe Biden in the White House?
It's lagging a
Jesus
lot.
Christ of Nazareth. You know why? Because he is sending a
Is it lagging for you, Austin?
No.
No. I can send you the link too. Hold on, it might just be.
Oh, I think that is it though. I think.
It's talking about who put Joe Biden in the White House.
Do you know who put Joe Biden in the White House?
Yes. All right. Yeah. That's the right one.
I sent it over to you. Just that way you can watch it as well. But
a message, and a profound one too, to the United States of America.
It's not
He
lagging
said,
anymore.
I have given you a president that forgets his name because you, America, have forgotten my holy name. You have forgotten. The White House again in 20.
Yeah, that's
there's
crazy.
probably more to it, and I'm sure he keeps going off. But yeah, I love
For sure.
I love Marmari.
That dude's amazing. Yeah, that guy's amazing. But yeah, that was spot on. I heard that and I was like, yep, that's right. That makes sense. I can see that.
Dang.
Well, and
Because
it's
you
like
have
that's
my-
part of what I was originally torn on Romans 13, right? It's because like if you read this at face value, right, which unfortunately a lot of people do, and it's like let everyone submit to the governing authorities, since there is no authority except from God. Then by that logic, then if you follow that to its logical conclusion without looking any deeper, then the Nazis were justified when they killed the Jews, or
Yep.
slavery
Exactly.
was justified, or right, which clearly we know God that's not the case. So
Right.
Well, that's
Sorry,
one thing that I mean, I don't want to spoil too much for those that may not have seen it, but I mean, this is a little more theatrical, right? Obviously, people read the Gospels, what happens in the Chosen, but when Simon Peter was really struggling with his emotions because he kept seeing Jesus perform so many miracles and feed the hungry and make sure they had rest and they were in comfort, and he was so upset. Like Jesus' words were like, "Well, they were here and now they're hungry and I was preaching them for 2 days, so of course I'm going to feed them," right? And but Simon Peter was having a little issue with that, and he was kind of just going through the struggles that he was going through with Eden and being gone from home all the time. One of the things that Jesus said to him is like, I allow you to go through these troubles to strengthen you. You know what I mean? And I think that's a big part. I mean, me and Matt have talked about it so many times, just how that resistance is necessary for times. And sometimes we may not see it right now, but we know that harder times are coming, right? And so the more trouble, the more struggles we go through now is just going to strengthen us and get us more ready for what's at hand. I think of that very much as like being a father. Right now, like my kids are really young. They're in boot camp right now, pretty much, essentially. Like at least when there's times to be a kid and play and run off, have fun, stuff like that. But really, they're in boot camp because the hardships are to come when they become an adult and they have to face responsibilities and stresses and pay taxes and a lot of things that can be a struggle. You know what I mean? So I think in the very much the same sense, not comparing myself to Jesus necessarily, but kind of following that example of Jesus is like, definitely allowing people to go through that struggles, because Jesus sees that 10,000 foot view, man. He knows we're gonna be in heaven with him, and all the struggles, anything we might have faced, is gonna all be worth it. And on top of that, we're also learning to be stronger and warriors of the spirit, right?
Right. Oh, yeah, I agree. Yeah, I don't think I can really add anything to that, to be honest with you. I think it's
Yeah, that was
well said.
great. Dang.
Awesome.
Dang. Sorry, guys.
No,
No, you're good.
Fist fighting, yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
Jeez.
We gotta
man.
get you one of those little. We'll get you one of those little tripod
Tripod
stands.
stuff,
Yeah,
all
that you
things,
put the boom right there, dude.
I need a better
Maybe
extension
so.
cord than what I need.
That's all you do.
Dang it, dude. Golly. Hold on.
It's beautiful, man. Honestly, the setup, just so everyone knows. I mean, Kendall, thank you so much, man, for coming on too, because it was.
Yeah, man.
We talked about it, and then it was kind of a last minute thing. I called you. It was like, important question. Do you want to be on the podcast tomorrow? And he's like, yes. And so without any setup, you had a computer didn't work. So it was just, you really wrapped it together, man. That's awesome.
Dedication.
Oh, thanks,
Yeah.
man. Well, I'm glad that it happened because it figured out that I need to get a new phone case. So,
That, yes. Yeah, dude. I felt like the devil was trying to sneak his way in to make this not happen today. I mean, like, you had the AC leak, which changed the schedule, which was fine, but then my power went out, and then my Wi-Fi was out. You had the troubles with the computer. It was like there's so many reasons why we didn't have to do this, and so I'm just really happy that we were able to get together, man.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be hard things, man. It was definitely easier to say no, but
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's always easy to say.
nothing easy ever has any meaning. I tell my kids that all the time.
Yeah. If it's not easy, then you should probably do it for the most part. So.
Yeah.
Heck yeah.
I know there's a couple videos. I don't know if you guys want to watch those.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one's really
Shoot.
short, to be honest with you. It's just a something that I thought was really cool. Where is it? If I can share my
I bet it's
screen.
awesome.
Well, the one dude's amazing, and I love him so much. This other guy I don't really know, but you should be able to see my screen. Correct?
Yes.
All right.
Find yourself in need of some wisdom
You both in here?
Yep.
Mhm.
All right. Sound.
Yep.
All right.
right now, open up Proverbs. Needing to express your emotions or fear, turn to Psalms. If you need to be reminded that you haven't screwed up too much, read all the history books in the Old Testament. If you're feeling skeptical, needing a reminder of who Jesus is and why does he even matter, the Gospel of John, oh man, every one of us should be reading the Gospel of John. Wondering how the gospel actually plays out in our life, what it does for us, got to read the book of Romans. If you're asking who does God say that I am, got to read Ephesians. If you need to know how to treat each other, especially people who are different than you, Corinthians, both of those books are incredible. If you're a young leader, read Timothy. If you're about to get married, read Song of Solomon. You'll thank me later. And here's what's crazy. As we meet with God in his story, he shows up and changes our story. If you
So that one, like I said, that one's super short, and it was kind of like a random. I really
That's
like
awesome.
that though, just because it was like, I don't know. I've been like super compelled to like read Psalms and read through Psalms and all that fun stuff recently. So
I love it.
it was nice to kind of see. And Ephesians is another one. That's the next book in the New Testament that I've got to read. So it was, I don't know, super
You'll
cool.
love it.
I never
Hey, Song of
thought
Solomon
about the Bible
is
from that kind of perspective, so to speak. You know.
Yeah.
Song of Solomon is also a very great book. I've read that one. It's a love story,
Yeah,
pretty much.
I do know a little bit about that.
yeah.
There's a gentleman that I saw. He incorporated that into his vows. For his
That's so
wives.
great. Like I've always had before we play this next video, I've always heard and even said like, well, there's no manual for life. You know what I mean? Like
There's a huge echo, by the way.
Oh, that's yeah. If you might have to click off of his stream for a second. If you hit stop watching stream, yeah.
Gotcha, you're good.
There was always this. Like I've always said, there's no manual for life. There's no pamphlet that tells you the secrets to happiness, stuff like that. I mean, it's very commonly said, but in reality, there really is. Like I kind of said in that video, like if any doubt you might have in your mind, or if you want to learn wisdom, or if you're desperate and angry, or if you feel lost, or you want to know your purpose, or you want to learn how to treat other people, and how that's going to make you happy, and because there's more joy in giving than there is in receiving. So much of the happiness that we receive is from doing these kind and loving things. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it's crazy how there's that ideology like, oh well, there's no secret to life. You know what I mean? It's like, well, there kind of is, man. Like, you know what I mean? Like I've experienced much more happiness, and I intend to experience much more in the future as I grow,
Right. Yeah, I agree. I think if there was ever a cheat sheet to life, it's definitely the Bible. That's for sure.
That's it. Yep.
That's for sure.
Amen.
Golly.
Is there another video you wanted to watch too, Matt?
Yeah. 1 second. I got you. It's this guy. I love this guy. I don't know if you've ever
What
seen
you
him.
got? I'm done
He's
Oh, yeah.
amazing. I love his stuff. So
pretending like what they did to me never happened. They damaged me, and they get to live how they want while I suffer in silence. What does Matthew 13:15 say? For this people's heart has become calloused. They hardly hear with their ears, and they have closed their eyes. Otherwise, they might see with their eyes, hear with their ears, understand with their hearts, and turn, and I would heal them. If the people that hurt you are not living for Jesus, then they will not hear you the way you want them to, because they don't have ears to hear. Now, if they listen and they apologize, don't rely on their apology to fix your brokenness, because only Jesus can do that. But either way, pray for them. What does Matthew 5:44 say? But I tell you, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. You stop reliving it when you choose to accept it. The problem is we think about the trauma, then we think about the damage, and we can't find a way to accept nor forgive what happened. But how often do we think about Jesus, seeing us there, broken, lost, angry, and he rescued us in spite of it all? What does 1 Corinthians 15:57 say? But thanks be to God, he gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. The enemy didn't win. You're already free, you just don't recognize it because you never had it. But until you learn to operate in the freedom given to you through Jesus, you will continue to relive the bondage of the life he freed you from. Hey, bro.
So inadvertently, somehow, it ties in perfectly to what we've already talked about a couple of different times. So, which is kind of weird, but apparently this is the video
That was awesome.
that I got the. We've already won the war. There is no war.
The war's already won. Yeah.
So
that goes along with too. I mean, me and Matt, we've talked about it. With me, like in my prayers, like, I had just worded it maybe a little differently, but it's from my faith is the reason I word it like this. But I don't say, hey God, give me the strength so I can go work this day today, or give me the strength, or give me the wisdom. It's Lord, help me recognize the strength you've given me. Yeah, Lord, help me recognize the wisdom that you've allowed me to have. You know what I mean? And like because the Lord's already given us that. And like he said, it's really just us being in bondage and not being either willing or just not recognizing it at the moment, And so
Well, it's even
that's
more
massive. I
like
love that
it's
video.
like it's not even like you being in bond. It's like you putting the cuffs on yourself. You know what I mean?
Right. Well, yes, yeah. I mean, yeah.
It's like because it's yeah, we've already been freed, like he said, right? It's
Yeah.
so
Right.
It's a matter of walking in
yeah,
freedom.
exactly.
Yeah, I guess we put ourselves in the bondage.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like, and we allow ourselves to be there.
yeah,
You know.
100%.
yeah. Because we
Yeah.
tell
100%.
ourselves like it's like oh I'm fighting this battle, but you're like you're not. The battle's already been won, unless you allow it to be. You only
Yeah.
lose if you want to lose at that time. At that point.
Right.
Yeah.
We're doing a cleanup job. We're supposed to be plundering the enemy's camp.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Taking
Like,
people with us.
Like
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
Taking people with
Exactly.
us.
No, I agree.
Yeah, I love his videos. He does. I don't know. There's
And what a great way to get that message across. Like,
yeah, he does.
what
so
a
good.
great method.
And I love how he incorporates scripture in there, and it's just
The back and forth conversation, like it's
it's amazing,
beautiful,
and it's all
beautiful.
super relatable. He has them on a bunch of different topics, and he's like, he's definitely found his calling. That's for sure. And
Yeah,
he's
exactly.
killing it. He's killing it. So I'm proud of him. But yeah, I don't know. Do you have any other questions that you really want to ask, Austin? I know we're at.
Yeah, what you got?
What are we at? We're at like an hour and a half right now. So
Yeah, I
wow.
better. I gotta get rolling soon. I gotta put these girls to bed, and my wife's handling 3 little ones at one time right now. But bless her heart, thank you to her because
She's amazing.
trying her best to keep the girls at bay, and she's trying to put groceries away and breastfeeding all at the same time. So she's
What a
awesome.
champ.
Yeah. But no, man, Kendall. Honestly, just want to say thank you, man, for coming on, and I think me and Matt both agree. We want to, love to have you on again and
Yeah, just
kind
let
of
me
talk
know.
about more things. And we're still very new, so we're just kind of getting the feel of it. And I think we're gonna find our podcast personality, so to speak. And we'll find our group. And once we do, I think we'll be able to, spend as a group spend more time in the scriptures and having really thoughtful and intentional conversations. And I think it's gonna be good, man. Yeah.
I look forward to it, brother. That's amazing. I love what you guys are doing. Like, this is so cool. It's beautiful, and God's hands is all over it.
Yeah.
that's
Awesome,
the
man.
goal. That's the goal, anyways.
Yeah.
But yeah, I guess just to echo what he was saying. Sorry if you can hear the squeaky toy. Code is going to town. But yeah, it's like I don't know. It's been a fun ride so far. It's only a couple episodes, but it's been fun. Obviously, thank you for coming on, and
Yeah,
I look
thanks for
forward
the
to
invite.
having you back for sure. So, hopefully, with maybe next time you'll have like a song maybe you can share or something like that. So
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kendall, why we still have the is there a way you can send Matt a link via like text and then he can post that?
yeah, I
Yeah.
can add it to
Yeah.
the description and all that fun stuff. So
Yeah, give me
definitely
just
do
a second. Sorry, my room is a mess. Don't judge me.
that. You're never gonna judge.
We
My
still
dog
do.
has ripped up a toy in the process of this,
And-
where I have fluff all over the ground. So
And hey, boys, gentlemen, God bless you. My daughters need my attention right now, so
Yeah,
I'm gonna have to go perform that.
it.
But
Hey,
much
buddy.
love, and Kendall, Matt, we'll talk very soon. I'm gonna head out here.